Stay back! I've got it!
It's moving to one. You stay back!
You people should leave before my husband does something crazy. Ngozi trembled, her voice breaking. Your husband cannot do anything. Mr. Okafor, the short man, retorted sharply. Tomorrow, we shall take this matter to the Council of Elders, the tall man said, his face tight with rage. And if he still refuses to let this snake be killed, then this house shall be burned down. Neighbors, please don't report my husband. Please, he will. Ngozi's pleas were cut short when Mrs. Folake said firmly, Mama Zara, in this community, we live by the law. And since your husband is proving stubborn, then the law must be enforced. They were still deep in argument when Below stormed out of the bedroom with a large cutlass raised. Within a split second, Mrs. Folake, Mr. Okafor, and the two other neighbors vanished from sight, leaving only Ngozi standing there. No, I thought they would stay here and continue talking nonsense, Below voiced out angrily. Idiots! He cursed, then his gaze fell hard on his wife. If this is how you want to be disrespectful to me, your husband, I swear I will return you back to your family. You hear me? My love, I'm sorry, Ngozi said softly. Isn't that what you say all the time? Isn't that what you say each time you upset me? He yelled, staring straight into her eyes. My love, I was scared for your life, my life, our daughter's life. Snakes can be very deadly with humans. Believe me, it won't happen again. She mumbled and began caressing his arms toward his chest. He heaved a sigh and slowly wrapped his hand around her waist. Woman, you're turning me on already. Very early the next morning, while Bello was yet to leave for work and Zara was still busy preparing for school, there was a sudden uproar outside the compound. Both Bello and Ngozi's attention was drawn to it. What is going on outside? Why the noise? Ngozi questioned, confusion clearly written on her face. Bello was silent. Then he began walking toward the door. Ngozi followed behind, curiosity and dread building in her chest. And just when they opened the door, they met the greatest shock of their lives. It has happened. Ngozi's lips parted as fear swallowed her entire being. The entire yard was saturated with men and women from around Sapil Crescent, including children in their school uniforms who were yet to leave for community secondary school. All eyes were fixed on Bello, whose face showed confusion and something deeper the slow dawning of real fear. What is going on here? Those were the first words he managed as he slowly walked into the gathering. Every eye followed him with each step he took. But soon, his facial expression transformed abruptly into a surge of fear. That was the moment he saw them, the two community chiefs from Ajenabode, standing beside his neighbor, Mr. Okafor. Seeing those men meant only one thing: danger. They were rarely seen in public. The Oba only sent them to places when something very serious had happened. Greetings, great elders, Bello stuttered. Silence followed. Bello, is it true? One of the two men asked, his voice icy. They were both clad in brown flowing robes, a traditional ibada worn by distinguished men of Edo land. Around their necks were beaded necklaces. Only men with great affiliation to the Oba dressed this way in Ajenabode. And these two men were no exception. We received a report that you have a snake living with you, and that you have blatantly refused anyone from killing it, including your wife. The man scanned deep into Bello's face. Is it true? Is it true? The second one asked. His voice was more coarse, and it sent cold shivers down Bello's spine. Great chiefs of this land. Bello began calmly, trying to hide the terror underneath. With all due respect, there is nothing like that in my house. Okafor here is lying. I am not harboring any snakes in my house. You lie. Bello, you lie. Even your wife knows you are lying. Mr. Okafor screamed. Then he faced the elders. Great chiefs, you can ask his wife. Ask her. She knows. Bello turned back and stared at his wife. His heart trembled even more. Then he faced the men again. I have no reason to lie. Great elders, there is nothing inside my house. He was still trying to explain when one of the elders interrupted sharply. Bring his wife here. Now. Immediately, three men rushed toward Ngozi. Despite her wails and resistance, she was pulled by her arms where her husband, Mr. Okafor, and the elders stood. More people were joining the scene. Woman, the elder said, his voice low and heavy. "If you do not tell us the truth, you and your husband will be banished from this community, and your house burned down." Ngozi's lips quivered. There's a snake," she finally whispered. "A big snake inside our roof." The moment those words left her mouth, the whole place sparked into chaos. Murmurs and whispers grew louder. "I said it. I knew that man was hiding something," came the voice of one woman from the crowd. At once, the expression of the elders turned into unexplainable rage. "Take this man to the Oba's palace immediately," they commanded. At once, the security men grabbed Bello and lifted him by his arms and shoulders like he was a criminal. People screamed more loudly as Bello was being taken away. His wife couldn't hold it. She collapsed on the ground, wailing helplessly. Now, amidst the chaos, while everyone was busy whispering about the incident that had just unfolded, the most unexpected thing happened. "My father is telling the truth. Don't take him away." 14-year-old Zara appeared from the side of the house and started shouting. Hearing this, the men who were carrying Bello away abruptly came to a halt. They turned back. "I know the truth," Zara said coldly, her voice cutting through the noise. "And I will expose everything." The chiefs hardened their eyes, exchanging slow glances. "Then what is the truth?" one of them asked. "Who owns the snake? If your father didn't know about it, why did he refuse the neighbors from killing it?" Instantly, everywhere became silent. All eyes were now on young Zara. She didn't flinch. She gazed at the crowd, then toward the roof of her house, then back at the elders. "The snake is not his," she answered. "Then who owns it?" A masculine voice screamed from crowd. She hesitated for a moment before responding. "I told someone it has been there for 3 months now." For 3 months. But we only just saw it this week." Mr. Okafor snapped from his position. His question gave rise to another wave of uproar. "No," Zara retorted. "You only just noticed it this week." All the while, Ngozi had been shaking, trembling in even more fear. She couldn't believe the little girl saying these things was the same girl she had birthed. She was now seeing her own daughter differently. "But you—" The other chief gestured with his walking stick toward Zara. "How did you know so much about the snake?" "I hear it at night," Zara said simply. "It moves when my mother prays. It never comes down when I'm awake." Bello, hearing this from his daughter, became afraid. "Enough. She's just a child. She doesn't know what she's saying." He managed to scream despite the strong grip of the men holding him. Everywhere went silent. Everyone was curious to know what would happen next. Then the first elder stepped closer to Zara. His body language and facial expression showed pure eagerness. His eyes scanned her thoroughly, as though she held all the answers to his confusion. "The snake," he began, staring keenly, eyeball to eyeball. "Can you remember the day it came? Do you know how it managed to enter your ceiling?" "The day I turned 14, Zara mumbled. "It was the night my grandmother died." Ngozi froze the moment she heard this. "Spiritual child," a woman hollered from a corner. "Great abomination," another voice added. Murmurs from people started again. And while men, women, and children began to whisper to themselves, the second elder who stood close to Mr. Okafor cleared his throat in preparation to speak. "This is no longer a matter for the Oba," he shook his head in perplexity. "It is a matter for the community shrine. Only the priestess can give us answers." Those words from Zara replayed in the chief's head as he spoke. "Take them with us," he commanded, pointing at Bello and Zara with his walking stick. "We are going to the shrine to get answers from the priestess." Immediately, the men holding Bello strengthened their grip on him as they all began heading toward the village shrine at the edge of Ajenabo town. But no one dared to touch Zara. Spiritual child. Abomination. Two women spat in disgust as they walked past Zara. The others drowned in both fear and confusion as they gazed at her like she was a snake in human form. The elders were at the front. Ngozi held her daughter closely as they hastily followed the men carrying Bello. Half of the villagers followed behind in a long, winding procession through the dusty streets. The moment they all arrived at the sacred grounds of the shrine, the priestess stepped out immediately, as though she already knew people were coming. The elders stepped forward to narrate what had brought them there, but the priestess raised her hand and asked them to keep silent. She was clad in a red and white wrapper. On her wrists and ankles were beads of different colors. On her entire body were ritual drawings made with traditional white chalk. As she slowly looked around, staring deeply into faces, the whole place went dead silent. She walked into the crowd. The only sound that could be heard was the soft clapping of her beads with each step. The elders exchanged glances in confusion. They wondered what the priestess was doing. Every eye followed her until she came to a halt, right in front of Zara and her mother. For a few long seconds, she stared motionless at the girl. Seeing this, the villagers began to murmur inaudible words. "Before your grandmother died," the priestess suddenly asked, "Did she speak to you?" Zara was silent. But it was at that moment she remembered the day she had turned 14, the night her grandmother died. Before passing away, right there on the dying bed, her grandmother had held her hand tightly. She had wanted to say something to her granddaughter, Zara, but she died while trying to speak. Zara had never told anyone. The revelation. Then the priestess turned to the elders, making her beads clap loudly with a sharp turn. Many years ago, she began, this land was full of death. Children were dying. Strange sicknesses everywhere. People were afraid. She paused for a second, gazing back at the people's faces. Our ancestors went to the gods and begged for help. The gods agreed to protect this land. But they said one female from the village must stand between death and the people. One female every generation, she added. That female will carry the spiritual burden of the land. She will be the one the spirits recognize. Then she paused again and pointed toward the forest path. The snake you people are afraid of, it is not ordinary. It is a sign. She said this calmly, while everyone's jaw dropped open. When the old priestess dies, the snake will appear in the house of the next one. It does not bite. It does not harm anyone. It only watches and waits until the village understands. The crowd became even more silent. Zara's grandmother was the last one. The night she died, the spirit moved. The snake entered this house that same night. It wasn't there to kill, but to mock. Then suddenly, she looked directly at Zara. "You are the next one." The moment she said that, an uncontrollable wail left Ngozi's lips. "Hold that woman!" one of the elders screamed from his position. Once again, silence settled. "The snake did not come down when you were awake because it knows you," the priestess continued. "It moved when your mother prayed because spiritual things respond to prayer. It stayed 3 months because nobody understood. It waited for today." Then she faced Bello and the men that held him. "This man is innocent. He refused to let the snake be killed because he was not in control. Something inside him knew it was not evil. Blood knows blood." It was at that point the men released Bello. "Thank you, Great One." He exhaled deeply in relief. The priestess now faced Zara fully. "To carry this is not easy. I will train you here. You will protect this land. When sickness wants to rise, you will stand. When death wants to enter, you will speak. You will not live like other girls, because this is what your blood carries." One by one, the villagers began to leave in utmost shock and silence when the priestess finished speaking. That night, as the moon shone above the shrine at the edge of a Jenabo town, Zara sat quietly beside the sacred fire. The snake coiled near her feet, calm and still. And for the first time, she understood everything. Her grandmother didn't just leave her. She had prepared her for destiny. At last, the accusations laid upon Bello, the curses on Zara, and the tears of Ngozi, everything stopped. And so the village learned that fear can make innocent people look guilty, and ignorance can turn neighbors against their own. They almost destroyed a man because they did not understand what they were seeing. They almost called a blessing an abomination. They learned that not everything strange is evil, and not everything dangerous is sent to destroy. Some signs come to prepare, not to punish. They learned that destiny does not always arrive with celebration. Sometimes it comes with tears, accusations, and loneliness. Sometimes the one chosen must stand alone before others understand. Above all, they learn that truth will always reveal itself in time. And when it does, it brings peace to the land and freedom to the innocent. And in the quiet of the shrine, as the fire burned gently beside her, Zara understood that purpose is not something you run from. It is something you grow into. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe, like, share, and comment.